Thank you, Thomas. I think you should start with space trees. It's been quite a good hit here. So actually, to answer the question you avoided to answer, talking about it, I think that is most of a disinformation is very, very fragile against exposure. And of course, we all know that there are audiences that would be immune to exposure. But as more and more we talk about the techniques that are employed, the more resilience we create, both within the audience, but also within the kind of those that publish information that can be used in that way. And the other thing is exposing the examples. That's, I think, not a very complicated, as long as you know what is happening and you understand the method, but I think most impactful way. So, okay, you've heard quite a few of different takes what happened, from kind of specifically zooming on war to having a look at the specific angles of the information kind of processes kind of in a context of war. So what can we take away from it? I think first and foremost we have to take away that it is a constant process. It is not something that comes and goes. It is here and it stays. It picks up in volumes in the times of crisis, even more so in a wars, and it kind of comes down a little bit, but it is always present. There are many parties in that environment. There are quite a few hostile to the democracy, but not all of them per se are states. Not every problem is a Russian problem. So there are different problems. And also we understand, I think what I would take away from it, how essential it is in a society, especially democratic society, to present that case that we have a normal, functional, free, transparent, and accountable information environment. That is the backbone, who we are. And in a crisis, that is being exposed even more so. These studies didn't really look at the agency of the people in this, because we looked at Russia. They're trying to deny people the agency. But when we look at it as a problem as such, what I take away is people are actually the ultimate element in this information warfare. And I think what we can take away from a Ukrainian society is the fact that Ukrainian society themselves bought into that fight that made them succeed. This is where ultimately we all have to invest. And some of these studies in a way show how Russia tried to adjust to the fact that just vertical doesn't really work very well anymore in this very kind of intense information kind of war. And to some extent they actually succeeded to do these adjustments, as demonstrated by some of the data from Telegram channels and all that. But it's still not good enough if you're facing a very resilient, very motivated society that not only fights in the trenches, but is actually fighting themselves in the information war as well. So to me, big takeaway, not only that Russia is not as big and as dangerous as they sometimes felt like in the previous years, is that when we have to be successful, we have to find a way how we go to the societies and to our people to actually be the agents of the country and the players and the warriors of a country in the information war. And that is a challenge also from a governmental perspective or from a military perspective. We always think in hierarchies. And of course there's very good reason, because you have to control, coordinate, you have to have the coordination of efforts to have a single effect. Yet, what the data says is we have to find a way how to give this possibility to people. And the lower you go down, the more you trust your people, your society to do, and the more they buy in, the more successful you are. And that, of course, is going back to this question, are we still that resilient as a society? Do we have still that in us? Or, as in quite a few recent years, we've been looking at what is discourses in quite a few democracies, we're starting to wonder whether we're still capable of it. And I think that is something that it really boils down to it, because if you look at the way we function as democracies, it's about the way we are able to come to a consensus, how we kind of listen to others, we kind of take in their views and are able to negotiate and come to a certain agreements. The society that cannot and is disrupted cannot provide that resilience, whereas kind of putting up the fight in the information front. And that is where I would argue we have to put more emphasis on. The second, technology. Yes, here that was not highly sophisticated technology to use Telegram and other apps to circumvent. But one of the key fronts that we will have to always keep an eye on is the way technology transforms the possible, available, risky, and vulnerable in the information space. Because 3 years ago, you would have looked at Telegram very differently. Yet in a war, it was transformed for what it is right now. As things move on, and I think we have to recognize in Russia we have not seen a very technically well-developed actor, but if you think of all of those booming AI solutions available, GPT chatbot and many others, think of the way it can be used in these information war circumstances. So this is another angle that we have to always adjust and adapt. And although it sometimes feels right now pretty far-fetched, we blink eyes a couple of times and then it is a reality already. We just missed it. So that's another one. Third, I think also kind of not in this research, there's other incoming researchers, is this is a global information war. So the nuances of the information has no such definite boundaries. And when a big regional event like the war in Ukraine happens, in the information space, it becomes a global element. And we have to recognize that is one of the mistakes for us. We've kind of, okay, war is Ukraine, so we go Europe, we support NATO support, we fight in European NATO information spaces, Ukraine, try to get it to Russia, but there's a whole of globe. And that is what we missed. And that is, I say, also a takeaway for me, that these wars in the information space are global, and we have to strategies that match that reality. And it is, I think, also a lesson learned from that. Clearly, this is just a kind of first step of understanding, and as you see, it was basically about like pretty much the first months that led to and first months into the war that we really looked at. There's far more data, far more kind of research going on right now as we speak in so many other aspects. So there's more to come, but to me, I hope you take away from this the understanding of the importance of the information element in the war. You understand better what Russia and how they adopt it and what is new or old in their portfolio of things and tools that they would use. But also we are starting to understand what we need to do. Where is our investment? Where is our point of critical input to be successful in this? And that is what we promise to provide further, to look more into these and to try to, as the knowledge and research is being created, to provide it publicly. And of course, the one research that has not been published, I hope within a number of weeks or months' time will be also available for the section. There will be more chapters in that than we presented, but keep your eyes and ears open. And of course, for those interested, 6th and 7th of June, we will have our big strategic communications dialogue event. Of course, we'll also look at the realities of the war, but far more wider than just that. And I hope you will, at least some of you will find it interesting to come back and visit us for that event. Thank you very much, and thank you for being with us.